They told us these shows were harmless. Bright colors, silly voices, and goofy theme songs. The kind of stuff you could watch with a sugar high and a bowl of cereal without a care in the world. But what if they weren't harmless at all? What if, buried in those Saturday morning adventures, were warnings? Clues about a future that in the 1980s seemed impossible, but today feels uncomfortably close. Events, technologies, even political shifts that would happen decades later, all playing out in the so-called kid shows of the past. Were these just accidents, or did someone know more than they were letting on? Today on Vintiverse, we're digging deep into 10 forgotten 80s cartoons that predicted modern conspiracies. From suppressed technology to strange glimpses of disasters that hadn't yet happened, these are the animated time capsules you were never meant to notice. And before we jump in, subscribe to Vintiverse, because here, nostalgia isn't just about memories, it's about uncovering what the past was really trying to tell us. Number 10. Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light, 1987. At first glance, Visionaries was just another toy commercial cartoon, knights with holographic animals fighting sorcerers. But when you strip away the colorful animation and kid-friendly banter, it starts reading like a scripted simulation of a controlled societal collapse. The world of Prismos wasn't destroyed by war or nature. It was brought to its knees in a single instant when the age of science ended. In the show, this is blamed on a rare planetary alignment, but conspiracy thinkers see something more deliberate. A system-wide deactivation, the kind you'd get if a global governing body, or an unseen higher power, wanted to force civilization back into a controllable state overnight. This theory aligns disturbingly well with real-world concepts like the Carnegie Plan and certain declassified continuity of government documents that discuss maintaining order if infrastructure unexpectedly fails. What better way to erase the chaos of free, uncontrolled technology than to pull the plug entirely? And then, who inherits the world? In Visionaries, it's the few who can prove themselves in secret trials and are rewarded with magical powers. To modernize, this sounds less like fantasy and more like a post-collapse meritocracy, where access to advanced resources is biometric, selective, and conditional. The holographic animal totems could easily be read as early symbolic stand-ins for permanent digital identity markers, impossible to fake, tied to your very being, and mandatory for participation in society. Even creepier is the hierarchy of power. The wizard Merklin, who grants these abilities, sits alone at the top, controlling who gets which powers and when they're activated. It's eerily similar to the way conspiracy theorists describe gatekeeper elites who decide which technologies, cures, or energies are released to the public and which are locked away. If you really want to go full rabbit hole, some fans have noticed that Prismos' map resembles an inverted projection of certain Earth continents. Could it be that Prismos is not another planet at all, but a version of Earth after a reset where history, geography, and culture were rewritten for a compliant new population? If that's the case, Visionaries wasn't just predicting a conspiracy, it was showing us the endgame. Number 9. Bionic 6, 1987. On the surface, Bionic 6 was a feel-good story about a multicultural family gaining superhuman abilities after a freak accident. But peel away the glossy 80s optimism and you find a narrative that mirrors some of the most unsettling real-world transhumanism theories of today. Dr. Amadeus Sharp, the father and lead scientist, doesn't just heal his family, he rebuilds them. The bionics he gives them are not removable, they're permanently integrated into their bodies, making them stronger, faster, smarter, but also forever dependent on the technology he controls. Here's where it gets chilling. In conspiracy circles, this is eerily similar to the concept of bio-digital convergence, a future where humans are physically fused with advanced tech and in turn become part of a network that can be monitored, upgraded, or shut down remotely. Think about it. In Bionic 6, there's never a scene where the family asks for consent before their enhancements are implanted. They simply wake up improved and grateful for it. That mirrors the fear of future government or corporate programs that use emergencies, real or engineered, as justification to ultra citizens for their own safety. Even their home, filled with voice-activated systems and surveillance tech, is decades ahead of its time. In the 80s, this was sci-fi luxury. Today, it's called a smart home, and we now know that such devices can track, record, and transmit data without user awareness. Some theorists even connect Bionic 6 to whispers about early classified DARPA projects involving cybernetic enhancement for soldiers. Was this cartoon normalizing the idea so future generations would accept it without question? Or was it quietly bragging about technology the public wasn't supposed to know existed yet? Number 8. Blackstar, 1981. Before Eternia, before He-Man's battle cry, there was John Blackstar. An astronaut sucked through a black hole into an alien world. But what if Blackstar isn't just space fantasy fun? What if it's an allegory for the secret space program that conspiracy theorists have been whispering about for decades? The idea is simple but explosive. Certain astronauts and military operatives have allegedly been sent through portals, wormholes, or stargates to other worlds, not as accidents, but as part of covert missions hidden from the public eye. Blackstar's premise fits this like a glove. Then there's the Power Star, a weapon split into two halves. In the show, whoever unites the halves gains control of Sagar's energy. In conspiracy lore, there are claims of suppressed zero-point energy devices that are useless without a specific paired component, kept in different secure locations so no one can ever unlock their full potential. Sound familiar? The Overlord's use of his half for domination mirrors how some believe global powers hoard incomplete advanced tech as a way to maintain control over nations and populations. Blackstar's quest to reunite the halves can be read as a metaphor for whistleblowers and rogue scientists trying to bring hidden technology into the public domain. Even the alien cities in Blackstar, with their pyramid-like temples and intricate glyphs, seem ripped from Earth's own ancient civilizations. Some fans suggest this isn't an alien planet at all, but a version of Earth after a cataclysm, where survivors escaped underground or into another dimension. Number 7. Captain Planet and the Planeteers, premiered in 1990. You might remember Captain Planet as a well-meaning eco-superhero who taught kids to recycle. But peel back the wholesome environmental message and you'll find something that lines up disturbingly well with modern fears about eco-authoritarianism. In the show, the Planeteers are chosen from around the globe, each given a magical ring that controls an element of nature. Together, they can summon Captain Planet, a hero with powers far beyond any government's reach. Sounds great, until you realize the underlying structure. Power is centralized, access to it is controlled, and the authority to save the world rests in the hands of a select, pre-approved few. Some conspiracy theorists believe Captain Planet was a form of predictive programming, familiarizing children with the idea of a global environmental authority that overrides national sovereignty. The villains weren't just polluters, they were often industrialists and independent operators, the kind of figures who in real life might resist top-down control of resources. Even the power rings have a modern parallel: digital environmental credits. Imagine a near future where your ability to buy, travel, or use energy is tied to a green score that can be turned off if you don't comply. In Captain Planet, if you misuse your ring, it simply stops working. A perfect metaphor for conditional access to life's essentials. Number 6. The Transformers, 1984. At first, Transformers is a simple war between Autobots and Decepticons, good robots versus bad robots. But dive deeper, and it starts reading like a dramatized version of Cold War shadow politics and the arms race, with a layer of extraterrestrial tech conspiracy thrown in for good measure. Cybertron, their home planet, is a world stripped of resources after endless conflict. The Autobots and Decepticons flee to Earth, each seeking the energy they need to rebuild and control. Sound familiar? In geopolitical terms, it mirrors the competition for Earth's resources, where superpowers use proxy wars to secure oil, minerals, and strategic influence. Some fans believe the series hinted at real-world reverse engineering of alien technology. The Autobots' alliance with select humans could be seen as symbolic of hidden deals between global governments and unknown outside forces, exchanging cooperation for access to advanced weaponry. And just like in real-world power struggles, victory in Transformers isn't about ideals. It's about controlling the energy supply. Whether you see them as toy-selling heroes or thinly veiled metaphors for shadow geopolitics, one thing is clear: the fight for Cybertron looks an awful lot like the fight for Earth.
Number 5. Jem and the Holograms, 1985. To most people, Jem and the Holograms is a glittery time capsule of neon hair, outrageous fashion, and pop songs. But under the glam lies a premise that today's conspiracy theorists find disturbingly prophetic. The show's central gimmick was Synergy, a supercomputer capable of projecting flawless, life-sized holograms indistinguishable from reality. Jem's entire identity hinged on Synergy's ability to hide the truth and create a convincing public persona. In the 80s, this was harmless fantasy, but today it's almost a blueprint for deep fake culture, where anyone's face, voice, or entire personality can be fabricated by AI with unsettling precision. Some even point out that Jem foreshadowed how entertainment industries could be used to control public perception, keeping the truth hidden behind manufactured images. Then there's a question nobody in the show ever asked: who programmed Synergy, and why is it so loyal? In a conspiracy context, Synergy could represent centralized media technology, powerful enough to rewrite reality, but entirely in the hands of its creators. The audience never meet the people who truly own Synergy, and maybe that's the point. Number 4. Rainbow Brite, 1984. Rainbow Brite was marketed as the ultimate positivity icon, a magical girl tasked with spreading color and happiness across the universe. But viewed through a darker lens, her mission starts looking like a parable for resource monopolization and environmental manipulation. In the series, all color in the universe comes from color crystals, mined and managed exclusively by Rainbow Brite and her color kids. The villain's goal: to drain or control these crystals. To a conspiracy theorist, this is a direct metaphor for controlling the planet's most vital resources: energy, food, or even information. The structure of Rainbow Brite's world is equally telling. A centralized authority decides who gets access to color and when. Translate color into energy or clean water, and you've got a system where the masses depend entirely on the few who control the supply. Some theorists go further, suggesting the Dark Princess, who tries to hoard all color for herself, symbolizes corporate or elite interest that deliberately creates scarcity to maintain power. Seen this way, Rainbow Brite's cheerful adventures are a child-friendly dramatization of the resource wars we see playing out in the real world today.
Number 3. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1987. They lived in the sewers, fought with ninja weapons, and loved pizza. The very definition of harmless kid fun. But hidden in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series are moments that conspiracy watchers can't stop talking about. One episode in particular has become infamous. Shredder, Krang, and the Foot Clan hatch a plan that involves hijacking a plane and flying it directly toward the World Trade Center. The Turtles intervene at the last second, but the parallels to 9/11 are so uncanny that it's hard to believe this aired in the late 1980s.
For conspiracy theorists, this isn't just a creepy coincidence. They see it as an example of predictive programming. The idea that media is used to plant imagery of future events into the public's consciousness, so that when those events happen in real life, they feel less shocking and more inevitable. The show also had storylines involving chemical spills, mutation experiments, and corrupt corporations willing to poison cities for profit. If you replace mutagen ooze with industrial waste or bioengineered pathogens, the leap to real-world parallels is unsettlingly short. Some even argue that the turtles themselves are symbolic, a small, hidden force working from the shadows to counteract a much larger, better resourced enemy that operates above ground in plain sight. In other words, a cartoon about 4 talking reptiles may have been modeling how resistance movements work in the face of overwhelming power. Number 2. Iron Man the Animated Series 1994, 80s Marvel Roots. While Iron Man's animated debut was in the mid-1990s, its DNA traces directly back to the Marvel boom of the 80s. And one particular storyline in this series is so disturbing that it's hard to watch without feeling a chill. In one 2-part arc, villains attack the World Trade Center with explosives and later attempt to crash a plane into the Pentagon. This aired years before those events happened in reality. For conspiracy theorists, this isn't just accidental storytelling. It's another textbook case of predictive programming. But the conspiratorial depth doesn't stop there. The show's core premise revolves around Tony Stark's access to bleeding-edge technology. Tech so advanced that even the US government can't replicate it without him. This mirrors real-world rumors about breakaway civilizations, groups with access to technologies decades ahead of the public, often tied to military-industrial insiders. In the series, Stark's tech can heal, protect, or destroy depending on who controls it. In conspiracy thinking, this is exactly how advanced weaponry, energy systems, and even medical breakthroughs are handled in reality, kept behind locked doors until they can be used for strategic advantage. And here's the eerie part. In the Iron Man cartoon, Stark's greatest threat isn't an alien invasion or a supernatural force. It's infiltration. Enemies don't just attack from outside. They plant themselves inside his company, inside his systems, and sometimes inside his own armor. Swap armor for infrastructure, and suddenly it's not just a superhero story. It's a metaphor for how our real-world systems could be compromised from within.
Number 1. Visionaries' darker twin, the unseen map of Prismos. We've already talked about Visionaries' Knights of the Magical Light earlier on this list, but there's one element that deserves its own slot at the very top, because it's that disturbing. And it isn't in the plot, it's in the background. If you freeze frame certain wide shots of Prismos, the fictional world after the age of science collapse, you'll see a map that looks oddly familiar. Flip it upside down, adjust the scale, and it begins to resemble the outlines of our own continents, but altered, as if sea levels had risen and entire coastlines had vanished. To most kids in 1987, this was meaningless decoration, but for those who study global catastrophe scenarios, it lines up with maps of a post-reset Earth, often shared in conspiracy communities. Depictions of what our planet might look like after an engineered or natural cataclysm, when civilization is forced to start over. Now add in the other strange coincidences. The selective granting of magic to those who passed the trials, symbolic of post-crisis gatekeeping, the collapse of technology in a single day, global EMP or coordinated cyber shutdown, and the centralization of all power under one figure, Merklin. This isn't just a cartoon kingdom, it's a hypothetical model for a controlled society rebuilt after a massive depopulation or infrastructure wipeout. Was this just set design? Or was someone quietly embedding a speculative future into Saturday morning programming? If it was intentional, that makes Visionaries not just a fun footnote in 80s animation, but the eeriest and most pointed piece of predictive fiction the decade ever produced. This then leaves us with the questions. Was it all just coincidence? Were these writers and animators simply ahead of their time? Or were these cartoons part of something bigger? A slow drip of imagery and ideas meant to prepare us for the world we live in today. If you want more strange, nostalgic deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe to Vintiverse and turn on notifications. And in the comments, tell us which of these predictions freaked you out the most and which ones do you think were deliberate?